Thank you very much. So just piggybacking off that last question to Justin, if you do want to see exactly that thing, it's in the course we made, just PS. I love FormKit. FormKit is amazing, so definitely check that out. My name is Daniel Kelly. I am the lead instructor at Vue School. Before I joined the Vue School team, I was a full stack dev, just like a lot of you probably here in the audience. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself. Let's get on to the topic at hand, some common mistakes in Vue.js, and probably more importantly, how you can avoid them. So first of all, why did I choose to share this topic? Well, number one, we're all humans and we all make mistakes. So I figured this would be something we all had in common, right? That, and in the world of AI these days, I think it's really important actually to recognize that we're human. Secondly, these mistakes that we make as humans, the really small mistakes, can sometimes result in huge frustrations or huge time sucks, right? There have been plenty of times in my development career where I have spent hours, even days sometimes, debugging something that I could have avoided altogether by making one 5-second change, knowing one thing, right? So I want you to be able to learn from the mistakes of others before you have to make some of these mistakes yourself. Awesome. So I think this is a very practical topic. So let's jump right into it. Mistake number one. This is by far one of the biggest mistakes I see developers make. Okay? I'm about to show you a little piece of code. I want the first person who knows what the mistake is to just shout it out. Okay? You ready for it? Are you ready for it? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll show it to you. Anybody know? Can you tell? What's wrong? Okay, it's using the index as the key, right? I've seen this so many bloody times. People using the index as the key. Like we're all, at this point, ESLint has taught us we have to provide a key, right? We've gotten that far, but then people just want to throw the index in there and they think they've solved the problem, but they actually haven't. They've only given the illusion that the problem is solved. Okay, so why is this such a prevalent issue? Well, the reason is because most of the time it doesn't actually manifest as an issue. A lot of times you don't catch it because the bug will only actually exist under these two conditions, okay? First of all, the elements in the array that you're looping over have to change order at some point. So that's condition number one. Condition number two is that you have to have some kind of element within that v4 that contains internal state, whether that's a form input that has a value or a Vue component that has data, right? Okay, so what I'm saying is it's tricky. Maybe I'm showing my age just a little bit. Maybe I'm showing my lack of taste in video games. But yeah, it's tricky. Okay, so let's take a look at an example so it's a little bit more clear as to what I'm actually talking about. Okay, I have this little Nuxt application that I've booted up here, which I have this nice little command palette. This is Nuxt UI, by the way. It's really super handy. And here I have an array of Pokemon. I'm printing the array of Pokemon to the page. I've provided a shuffle button to shuffle the Pokemon around. In the code, we have this here. Okay, you have some Pokemons. Get over it. I can't loop over Pokemon and Pokemon, so they're plural. Okay, so down here, we're just looping over Pokemon and Pokemons. We do have this bad index as a key, and I am printing out the Pokemon. So here you'll say, Daniel, what in the world is the problem? I don't see a bug. They actually are shuffling fine, and you're right, they are, because we've only met condition number one. We're only reordering the array. We haven't met condition number two yet, right? So let's take a look at an example that has that second condition in it. Here we're doing the exact same thing as before. Okay, but now instead of just printing out the name of a Pokemon, now we've got a Pokemon card component. And if I open up that Pokemon card component, you'll see it contains its own internal state. Okay, we're reaching out to an API to get more information about these Pokemon. All right? So what does that look like? Here's that code running. I just threw some images on there so it's a little bit more interesting. But now look what happens when I press shuffle. Nothing at all. And all of a sudden you're like, what in the world is going on? Literally, I had this just working a few minutes ago. All I did was create a new component to make it look a little fancier, and suddenly I broke things. Well, at this point, what I see a lot of developers doing is saying, okay, it's the component's fault because that's the new thing I added. Let me inspect things, and what they'll see is that the prop is actually changing, okay? And so what they'll do is they'll come in here and they'll watch the props.slug, and then they'll refetch the data and all this mess that's totally not necessary, okay? It's not only a performance hit, it's just more complication that's absolutely not needed. All you would have to do then at that point to actually fix the bug is provide a distinct key. Okay, so here's the thing you have to remember about the key. This is the one rule. The key is about identifying the element in the array. That's it. It's a way to identify the element in the array, not its position, but the data itself. If this is data coming from a database, it's probably going to be the what? ID. Okay. In our case, it's just the name of the Pokemon, right? So we can add a Pokemon in right here. Give the page a refresh. We're going to shuffle around. Everything is beautiful now with one super simple little change. By the way, this animation library is VAutoAnimate. If you don't know about it, Google it, check it out. It was actually created by the FormKit team. It's wonderful. Okay, so next piece of using the key that I find a lot of people don't realize is that it's not actually just for loops. Yes, you will see the key most often used in loops, but it has other use cases as well. So let's take a look at that here. I'm going to open this up in the browser. And here we just have a basic countdown, right? It's just ticking 1, 2, 3, 4 as my minutes go by on the clock down here. Okay, so over in the code, this is what is powering that ticker. And you'll notice I have a transition component wrapping my counter here. And I promise you all the styles and everything are set up down below accurately, okay? So the transition is set up. Why in the world is my ticker not transitioning? Well, the reason is because Vue is patching this div element. It's just replacing the text node, right? And so there's no element to transition one to the other from. In order for a transition to take place, there's got to be two things on the screen at one time so you can move from one of them to the other, right? Okay, so how do we tell Vue that as the counter changes, the div should also be re-rendered as well? Well, you do that with a key, okay? And the thing that is unique about each tick is what you're going to make that key. Of course, that's the number itself, right? So now when I go back over to my browser, it transitions nicely, fades one to the next. Okay, so the idea here is that key is not just for loops. Key is for telling Vue to re-render something anytime at all. Okay? Key is useful for telling Vue to re-render something whenever the key changes. All right, awesome. So that is mistake number one I see people make in Vue.js. Mistake number two is this. Here we go, another pop quiz. Can anybody tell me what is wrong with this? Any answers? Yell it out. No return. Nope, no dice, sorry. Side effect? Nope. Yes, sir, that is exactly right. So local storage is not reactive. This cookie's accepted computed prop is never going to update. And the problem with this is that it works the first time around. And so people get lulled into this false insecurity that my computed prop is actually going to work as expected. But then you could call local storage.set item as many times as you want, but the computed prop is never going to update. Okay, this is a fairly simple example. This one is even more obvious. Most of us understand this won't work, right? But what I see a lot of times is when you get into working with browser APIs, things like the local storage. People just kind of assume it's going to trigger reactive change when they access one of these APIs or when they mutate something via one of these APIs. Okay? So the easy fix to this way of thinking is to look at a library called Vue.use. Okay, Vue.use is going to wrap all of your browser APIs, along with a lot of other things actually, in a reactive layer, so you don't have to deal with this issue that we just saw. Okay? I'm up here on stage, I teach Vue every day, and I've made this very same mistake in code before. Okay? So let's look at a quick example of how you might refactor something very easily from using a browser native API to using the Vue.use wrapper around the native API. Okay? So here I'm going to open up some code. I am going to switch things over here in the browser. And here I have just a sweet little video player. It has a custom play button. When I click play, this idiot's car is going to roll over him. It's hilarious. Look at it. Oh, look at it go. Oh, there he is, under the car. That's crazy. Okay, but you were looking at the guy under the car. Did you notice that the play button didn't change to a pause button? Because that's what any good video player should do, right? Okay, so what am I doing right now? Well, right now, I am just grabbing the actual video element, the DOM element, and then I'm creating a computed prop called playing, and I'm checking the pause state of the video element. The problem is, of course, that that is not reactive data. Okay? So how do I fix this with Vue.use? It's actually quite simple. Since I'm in a Nuxt project and I have the Vue.use Nuxt module installed, all I have to do is say use media controls, pass it my video element that I want the controls to apply to, and then in here, I'm going to press Control Spacebar. And here's everything I have access to. This is everything that the composable exposes for me. Let me scroll through just a little bit, and ooh, sure enough, I can tell reactively if the video is playing or not. Okay, get rid of my non-reactive playing, refresh my page here. I'm a PHP guy. Forgive me if I refresh too much. Hit play. There's the pause button. I move on my merry way. Okay? Vue.use is a really must-have addition to any of your projects, okay? Because you get all this vast array of composables. They're right there at your fingertips, but of course it's tree shakeable. You only bundle what you actually use. So there's no reason not to install Vue.use in every single one of your projects. I do in mine, along with a few other things. Okay, so mistake number 3. Can anybody tell what is wrong with this piece of code? He's on a roll. Absolutely right. Okay, so we are reassigning a variable created with the reactive function. This is actually a fairly common scenario, right? Let's say that you have a page that displays a listings of posts. It's a paginated thing, and so you click, page 2 or, next page, and the load more function runs, and you want to replace that displayed post with the new ones that have just come from the server, right? Well, if you do it this way, you're killing the reactivity of the posts, okay? It actually says this right there in the Vue.js docs, but I don't know how many times I've seen people not do this, okay? And it's even gotten me a time or two. Let me show you an example, because sometimes it's very obvious that it won't work, but then there are other times where it kind of hides itself, and the bug is a lot trickier to find. Okay, so here is an example here. We're doing in this code exactly the same thing you saw on the slide. We're defining post as a reactive array. We're calling load more, which in a real-life app would load something from a server. We're just setting a new array of post and then assigning that original reactive array to those new posts, okay? On click, we are calling the load more function. Let's take a look at that in the browser. And right here, if I click load more, sure enough, it just doesn't work. So at this point, I haven't lost a whole lot of time as a developer, right? I figured out it didn't work pretty quickly. However, what if I also included some loading state inside of my load more function, right? Now suddenly I do have some properly defined reactive data being called inside of the function, and it's being used inside of the template. And so when that state changes, my template is going to accurately re-render, right? So now if I go to this example here, so mistake number 3, I click load more, the post part hasn't changed. The post is still doing the reactive thing wrong. But I hit load more, and now my posts actually look like I'm doing it right. Okay, so I'm suddenly confused, and when I'm going to fix this code, I don't point to the post as the culprit. And I've wasted time trying to track down what is going wrong. It is still up there. Okay, cool. But you'll notice also here that I have a number of posts, and this is actually a computed prop. So if I refresh the page here, you'll see that in the beginning it is correct, but when I hit load more, it doesn't update. Okay, that's because this computed prop doesn't rely on the loading data, and so it's never refreshed because it's still relying on this post reactive variable that has had its reactivity killed. Okay, so you can see how this can be a very tricky bug to track down if you aren't doing things right from the very beginning. Okay, so I'm here to save you time and help you do things right from the very beginning. One moment, my slides have gone haywire. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, that's a little preview of what's to come. Here's the moral of the story. I think you should just use ref everywhere. That's my personal opinion. I'm not the only one who holds that opinion. I know a lot of others who have adopted this exact practice. Just use ref everywhere because there are too many limitations to reactive to have to think about it. There are some that are extremely obvious. You can't give it a boolean, you can't give it a number, you can't give it a string. Those are obvious, but then there are more subtle things that can happen like we just saw. And the only downside to using ref everywhere is that you have to write .value every once in a while. And by the way, y'all, install Volar. I know you already have it for the syntax highlighting. Adds the .value for you, right? So you're not losing anything. My best practice is just use ref everywhere. Okay, last and final mistake of our time together. Mistake number 4. Can anybody tell me what is wrong with this code? Mutating props. Okay, awesome. I heard it back here in the back. You are exactly right. We are mutating props. We've all been taught this is right? But as you might expect, sometimes this gets a little tricky. Okay? Let's take a look at an example in some code. So, going over to my browser, let's find example number 4, mutating props. So if we were to actually run the code that you saw on the slide, this is exactly what would happen. This doesn't look so tricky, right? In fact, this is the opposite of tricky. This is, there's something wrong with your code. It's yelling at me, right? We know there's an issue. And if I go over to my file, yeah, you can see what I had in the slide. So when you're mutating props directly like this, there's nothing tricky about it. But what if that prop was an object instead of a string? That's where things actually get a little bit tricky. Let me show you. Okay, so here under, yep, this is my right spot. Okay, so here I have a piece of data, reactive data defined. It is an object with 2 properties on it, right? This is for a login form. Okay, that data is going down into a different component, a form component, and then we are listening for a submit event on that form component in order to update the data in the parent. Okay, this is actually a very common pattern that I use when working with forms. I have a component that's responsible for the data that's going to go on the form. It can accept some data down, so I can initialize the form fields to something if I want. So let's say a post. I can provide some initial post values down in there, right? But then when I submit the form, I want that to go back up to the parent and let the parent be responsible for doing whatever it needs to do with it, right? Well, if I go to form component.view right now, you'll see it actually looks fairly good, right? We're accepting the data. We've actually used TypeScript to make sure we're getting the proper shape of an object. So give ourselves a pat on the back, right? This is a good thing. Okay. We're also even doing the right thing in terms of defining the emit. Okay? Then finally, down here at the bottom, this is where our problem comes into play. Now, we're using vModel on data.username, and data is that prop, right? Okay, so you might think we get that same screaming red box that we had last time. Well, let's see if that's actually what happens. Okay, put some values in here. Nothing screams at me. I open the console. Some errors there, but I have some hydration stuff going on. I'm not sure what that's about, to be honest. Hey, yeah, they're still there. Anyways, doesn't matter. It's not the point. There's no error saying that we're mutating a prop, right? So, and if I type in here, you can see we're mutating the data in the parent when we update it in the child. As we've all been taught, that's not something you're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to go through the proper channels, emitting and props down and events up, right? That's the way we're supposed to mutate data. I have seen so many bugs because of this very thing in the code of other people and in the code of past Daniel. Okay, one of the guys I used to work with, we joked all the time, when we saw issues like this, we just said Vue is sometimes a little overreactive, right? It was overreacting a little bit because we didn't know what was going on. But now you know. If you have this same issue, now you know exactly what is going on. You are still mutating a prop. Vue just isn't really letting you know that you are, okay? I'm sure there's performance reasons for that. But how do we fix this? The more important question, right? Well, the fix is to then define some local data. You can initialize the local data to the data coming from the prop. That's not a problem. Kind of. You'll see that in just a minute. But one thing, by the way, a nice convention I like to use here is that if I'm transferring some prop into some local data that I can mess around with and then send back up later, I like to use the underscore and then the exact same name as the prop. Kind of helps me remember this is a prop that eventually needs to go back out again. Okay? So now I just define that local data, initialize it to what comes through the prop, and then when I emit my event, of course I'll emit the local data. More importantly, I will now do the vModel on the local data instead of the prop, because vModel is what's doing the mutating. Okay, so now when I refresh my page here, we type in username. Oh no, I thought I just fixed this. Come on, right? Anybody have an idea what's going on now? Say again? Object by reference. Exactly right. So this is the weird thing about JavaScript, and if you come from PHP like I do, it will mess you up, right? Your mind is blown. What in the world is happening? So an object in JavaScript is passed by reference and not by value. So what that means is when I pass props.data here to data, every time I update underscore data, then that's also going to update props.data, and in reality, I'm still mutating my prop. So how do I fix it? Well, the fix is simple. Okay, you clone it in some way. Now there are libraries for this. The simplest way is doing JSON stringify. Okay. Or you could spread it, yeah. In this case, you definitely could because it's only one layer deep, right? But you do have to be careful when spreading because it only clones the first level. All the nested ones are still a reference. Okay? So now I just JSON.parse it here. Okay, cool. So this is actually one very important thing to remember when you're passing object props, period. If you're going to mutate it in any way, if you're going to assign it to another variable inside of your component, you need to make sure you're cloning your object props so you don't get the issue we just had. Okay, finally, back in the browser now, I can type in username. It does not update in the parent. I hit login now, and then the proper channel of communication is finally there. Okay. These are just a small selection of mistakes that I've seen developers make over the years and have been guilty of plenty of times myself. Okay? At Vue School, I thought it would be idea to collect some of these mistakes, document them for people, and show people exactly like I've done today, show people how they can avoid them. And that's what this course here is all about. Okay, it's called Common Mistakes in Vue.js and How to Avoid Them. Wonder how I got the name for this talk, right? It's a free course, totally free. Go on Vue School, check it out. Junior developers, especially, I would have loved this when I was first starting Vue, okay? Even some senior level developers, I think there's some good stuff here for you as well. We talk about all the things that we talked about today, but we also talk about watching arrays the wrong way. We talk about forgetting to clean up your manual event listeners, memory leaking memory leaking problems. We talk about calling composables in the wrong place. We talk about using VHTML with user-provided data. Most of us know that's bad, but do you really know why that's bad? Check out this video, it'll tell you. You'll get to see it hands-on, okay? That is a free course, but we also have a lot of other really valuable premium courses as well, and now is honestly one of the best times you could purchase them. Okay, we have this really great Black Friday deal going on right now, 60% off a yearly plan. I'm maybe a little bit biased because I create a lot of the courses and help create a lot of the courses, but I think we've got some really great content that's going to help you boost your Vue.js career. Me and my colleague Dan, we are available at one of the booths here outside if you would like training for your team or even just for yourself. Feel free to come and talk to us. We'd love to get to know you better. And I kind of want to hear some of the common mistakes that you see other people in your team making, or God forbid you make yourselves. Because I know we've seen things over and over, and eventually we've learned to deal with them. But I would love to add some new lessons to that common mistakes course to help spread the word about some common mistakes. And of course we have swag, stickers, t-shirts, and all that good stuff as well. I am Daniel Kelly _IO on Twitter. If you are interested in any of the material that I've shared with you today, I will be tweeting out these slides as well as the code for the repo that I was working in up here via my X Twitter account. So feel free to gather that info there. I'll share it with you just shortly after I leave stage here. Thank you so very much for your time, and go code some awesome things in Vue.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, thank you. Love this talk, by the way, common mistakes. We talk about this stuff all the time in performance. There are a lot of oversights, I'll just say. All right.
Thanks. Hey, Daniel, thank you. Great course. I watch your courses, by the way.
Thank you.
On Vue School, yeah. I just have a question. The mutation prop you mentioned, right? So there is a ES linked to prevent that. But sometimes I like that feature because sometimes when we're dealing object, right? And then we can mutate the props directly in the child component, so we can split the component in different components. And we don't, because every time clone the prop and then emit the event is very tedious.
Yes.
So do you think doing this is totally bad, or sometimes it's okay?
No, I think it's bad. Just because I think it's bad because it breaks convention and it makes things work unexpected, right? You expect the thing to change only when you emit an event, and if you're going outside of that, then you're making things unpredictable. Mm-hmm. We need to be predictable. Now, in terms of having to juggle emitting like model value and update model value, do check out Vue 3.3. They have that excellent new composition function. I can't remember what it's called.
Define model?
Define model, exactly right, exactly right. And that's a lot of syntactic sugar that'll save you some strokes, some keystrokes.
Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes you still want to make things simple, right? Yeah.
No. You're making it you may be making it simple right then, but I guarantee you're making it harder down the road.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that question. Once again, give it up for Daniel.